I'm going to call the May 5th, 2021 Historic District Commission meeting to order. And I'd like to ask my fellow members if they would be okay in our order this evening. Matt, for the globe lighting, is more or less a little tiny 2-minute housekeeping item. And if we could move him to first, and then we will do 21 Jefferson Street second, and our folks that are on the agenda are okay with that. So is that all right with everybody on the board? We get Matt in and out so he can get back to work. Then I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as corrected, please.
Okay, I'll make the motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes of April 7th? And if not, we'll entertain a motion for approval, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the minute.
Mike, thank you.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, our first case, 5-5-21-10. And like it says, a housekeeping item, the light fixtures going into the globe, the front of the globe, have been changed. They're up, and we just need to do the approval. Matt, where's Matt? Is he still here? Hi, Matt. Come on down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone have a question about the fixtures? I think they're beautiful. They really look nice. All right, then let's entertain a motion to approve these light fixtures, please.
Okay, I'll make the motion to approve the light fixtures. I don't have the number though.
5-5-21-10.
5-21-10 as presented.
And I'll second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks.
They're contemporary, but they look old. It's interesting.
I just think they look really, really nice. I really
The
do.
carriage light in a way, today's version of it.
I think they thought that was in the original way back when we were working it, and for some reason it wasn't, so it's just a housekeeping. Our next case, 5-5-21-9, and Mr. and Mrs. Hines, and they are here to talk about property at 21 Jefferson Street. And if you please, come on down. Again,
Welcome.
Again, I want to thank you for your paperwork, your presentation to the board members. The detail and everything is very helpful, I think, to all of us, so thank you. And if you could just really quickly tell us a little bit about the business that you have now out on 113 and how you're going to incorporate that if you do go ahead and purchase the state land.
Sure.
Sure. So, my name is Megan, and this is Brett Hines. We have lived in Berlin since 2016, and I grew up here. I dragged him out here when we got together and got married. We started the Buzz Meadery last year in 2020. We opened in June last year. So that was a very eventful year, as we all know. But we did have a lot of support. One of the things that we're very proud of is that we source all of our honey, our fruit, our vegetables from our local farmers. And the reason that's important to us in making our product, our mead now, is because we had farmed, we had a little organic farm in Bishopville. We've done the hard work and we want to value those farmers. So when we make our mead, it is an alcoholic beverage, around 6 to 8% alcohol. and it's a honey wine. So we're listed as a Class 4 Maryland limited winery. And that's the licensing and the official thing. So we started in our tap house. It's about 800 square feet. It's pretty tiny. And right now we have 7 seats and outdoor seating when it's nice out. But we right now are open Friday through Sunday. We actually teach high school full-time during the week, and so we work on the weekends. And we have a team that is also helping us do some farmers markets and tap house hours. Does that work as an overview?
It really is, it's great, thank you. I think most everybody probably was familiar, but I know we have a lot of people listening in tonight, so maybe there are some people that were not familiar with your enterprise, so thank you. I think we all have questions to ask, and Dave has let me know that there's over 100 emails, letters, so forth. So we're not going to sit here till 2 o'clock in the morning and read all of them, but he will do a summary when we get to that point. I'd like to ask several questions on my list. It's your intent when you purchase, you are purchasing it, the two of you, for ownership of the lot, full responsibilities for the property as owners, correct?
Yeah, well,
So whatever would be use of the property, you would be responsible for those that would be using the property. Other than like somebody stopping to eat their lunch, which you said you were going to use that as a part. You understand where I'm coming from on this?
we are the only ones who are going to be on the deed, and we're purchasing it under our business name, and it's just Megan and I. And so we're responsible for everything that happens on that property. If that answers your question.
But you had a very extensive, well-coordinated social media about the property, and it said in there several places about vendors. So, what sort of vendors would you plan to have on there? I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Carol, could we have them just give us an overview of how this space will be used? 'Cause,
Good point.
instead, you know what I mean?
Well, that's
Yeah,
part, well,
yeah.
so I'm kind of getting there. But it's, numerous places that said vendors. The
Yeah,
space is
and that's
not-
part of it, because I don't have any idea how it's gonna be, the
You might-
entire,
Is there something, are we able to
Yes, go
speak
ahead,
really soon?
you're far enough away from the, from
We're
everyone.
both
Yeah,
fully
go ahead.
vaccinated, that helps. We'll just take one more speaking, you can go.
So the Berlin Commons is not a tap house. That's not the primary focus. The focus is to be an event space, a public community green space, where maybe a couple days a week, we're thinking like Friday, Saturday, maybe Sunday, we would host the meadery, but we would also have events where we would ask vendors. We would ask our local farmers or artisans. We would like to have an art focus, different educational events. So we have a friend, Marshall Creek Farm. She has her giant bunny. She actually comes to the farmers market. She wants to do like a farm therapy. We've talked to another farm, Ard Rock Acres. They want to bring their goats and have like a goat therapy, just contained within our fenced area, but then having the opportunity that people could come there and experience it. That would probably be limited, maybe over the weekends. The rest of the week would really be open for people for outdoor dining, grabbing takeout from another establishment in the area, coming to hang out with their families on the evenings. And so when we say vendors, it would be during the time where we are there to manage that. And we would also have a release of liability, so they don't hold us liable for anything, and then we, of course, would not hold the town liable for anything that happens either.
And to summarize it in a way that I think is kind of more digestible, is we're thinking of this as a private funded community green space. So the same as we have, multiple parks here in Berlin. This isn't a park with playgrounds, but this is a park with picnic tables. So when our residents or anyone who is enjoying our town wants to be outside, which all of us do more now, especially with the restrictions and uncertainty of the future. We don't have a lot of outdoor seating at these restaurants. A lot of our friends work at our restaurants here, and so our restaurants took a huge hit with COVID. So they supported us by having our, meat on served at their places. So now what we're able to do is give their patrons a place that they could get takeout food from any number of restaurants. There's no one regulating if they bring a picnic, but just like Meg said, we'll be able to have a calendar that other residents who have businesses here, if they want to host something, this is an opportunity for them to do that, the same as they might do it at the park or something. So, for example, some of the yoga studios, before we did this, we try to coordinate with them. So there's as you see in the drawing, there's a wide, the lot is not very large, but there is a green space in the middle that could be used for a small gathering of yoga, or like Meg said, other art vendors.
How many picnic tables do you,
In the drawing, I believe there's 13.
that's what I thought, okay.
And the lot is very small, so when we actually get everything up and running, that's probably going to be the most that there would be. And we might even make them a little narrower, so it's not necessarily like a 3.5 foot wide table, but maybe like a 2 foot, make them more slender, get some distancing between them.
Carol, may I ask a question?
Absolutely,
I'm so awed by
absolutely.
the creativity of where all this came from. On this little triangle that has
Yeah.
been here forever with my late mother-in-law, who would be 100 and something if she was alive. That was one of the oldest houses, if not the oldest house in Berlin. She just say that was, and it does have sort of that downtown Virginia Avenue and Georgetown, DC look. Those little houses that popped up there. And I know David Quillen. I know how creative he is. I mean, he is honored, well-received architect, and he's out there too. He isn't doing your everyday little cookie cutter houses, and it looks like it's a good mix with the two of you together. So, had you seen something like this before, or read of it, or I'm just curious. It's so creative.
Good question. So Meg and I were lucky enough to live in a couple of different parts of the country, going to college and then graduate school. So we've been able to experience a lot of different
May I
communities.
ask where, out of curiosity?
Yeah, South Carolina,
Okay.
and then Colorado.
I thought you would say Portland, Oregon, or Colorado. No, I have children out there.
Colorado.
That concept.
Megan was working on her doctorate out there, and then we both finished with our masters out there in Colorado. So when I was out there, I was working through some of the research projects I was on was value-added agriculture, and my advisor, she was creating and leading projects that are much larger than ours, but communities having something like what we're doing, but including it on much larger scales and pre-planning it into the urban development that was happening. So
Well, there's very little green here, really. I think I'm in Berlin, and whenever I have trees, and I think that's one thing I wish we had more of, because they're add so much, and just the fact that it would be a green space with some trees, whatever, coming out there. I think for that very, I don't want to say industrial, it's not industrial, but that very commercial area there, it certainly pops up a lot. And I think for young people, I mean, I see I lived here when I was a young person, so I see young people now pulling their wagons and their kids and their bikes and all that. And you all have a huge group of people of that genre that I think would be very appealing to you. It's, as I said, because I know nothing about it until I read and saw a little bit of it, that I'm just very impressed with your creativity and how bright the two of you are. It's always nice to have bright, educated people coming back to Berlin and wanting to share what they've experienced elsewhere. That's very interesting. Thank you, Carol.
Oh, you're welcome. Go ahead.
Did you want to finish? your
No, you
questions?
go
Because I
ahead,
cut
and
you
I'll,
off and asked for the overview.
no, go ahead, because I think we all kind of have the same questions.
I mean, I have a lot of questions running through my head, but I'm trying to narrow them down and focus on to what is relative to the Historic Commission. As far as what we're, allowed to say, I think it is an improvement. It's, it can be all removed, which, makes it to me, more practical, because, you know, if it didn't work out and you wanted to sell it or whatever. The porta potty, I think, is a concern in the historic district. How would that be camouflaged?
Good question. So the porta potty is not necessarily something that we are planning on having there. We wanted to just show a representation that, for example, during a lot of the big town events, the town has porta potties that are brought in.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're not necessarily planning on having a porta potty there. It's just if we were doing a larger event, maybe one that was tied in with or without the town or something, that we would be able to have this privacy fence built around it that would, number one, cover our trash receptacle, so that way that little cube there would house both our trash, so that way the wind wouldn't blow it over, it would be out of sight. And then if there was an event that we had a porta potty, we don't really want to have a porta potty there all the time. and
Well,
so-
you know, porta potties today, I did enough weddings, there are porta potties today they bring in, and they're not that much more expensive, they look like little houses.
Yeah.
They're air conditioned, I mean, they got the little generator on there, you go up the steps, there's the shutters, there's the pots, and they're full-on little, not construction site looking that, and there certainly would be room, it looks like they're back
Well,
on the
there's,
percent.
I think Dave can speak to that. They're not allowed per code.
No,
Of that, they
Yeah,
don't use,
they're
how
not
they
even
don't
allowed,
use them
so-
for events, when you have the big events here?
the town-sponsored events, we
Okay.
put the porta johns out
Right,
and remove them.
right.
But on private property, the town code says you can't
Oh,
have a
you can't
porta
bring
john,
one in for 24 hours or
Except-
48?
except during construction.
Okay. All
So
right.
that'll be a hurdle.
Well, again, we just put it there as a representation.
Yeah, right.
So if there was a town-sponsored event, we're really hoping that with the openness of this, you know, being a community project, that the town would hopefully find some value in hosting events here, you know, or
With the
using it
overflow they have.
for overflow. I mean, there's so many events and it's only going to increase as.
Where does your revenue come from?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, it's always
So-
a good question,
Yeah,
right?
so to
Yeah.
be crystal clear on exactly how we're going to monetize this, because I'm sure that's what a lot of you are asking. So, as Megan said before, we're licensed under the state of Maryland as a Maryland winery. So, under the Maryland state winery license, we're allowed to do so many events per year, special events, where the main focus is something that is more than just us being a vendor there. It's the focus is other things happening. We just happen to also be part of that group of special event. So on certain weekends that we find are going to be popular in town, we could guess which weekends those would be. We are planning on monetizing those weekends, and those events could be up to 3 days in length. We might not have them 3 days in length, but that's what we have the option to do. So we just purchased a nice used vehicle that we take to the farmers markets and keep our product cold. And so on those special events, we're allowed to serve for off and on-site consumption, following the same regulations that any other event would have.
So then you wouldn't need a special event liquor license or anything? You could just do it under the license you already have?
So good question. So we do need a special events license that we submit to the state of Maryland. So we would be filling out those as these events.
So you would do it for each special event?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
Every
you do
single
it
event.
quarterly or yearly, that pick the dates in advance? Which way?
We could do multiple, but we have to submit a separate form for each event.
Every 3 consecutive days is a special up to. So.
My understanding was, and I don't know, you could correct me if you have that license, was that through the controller's
Yeah, I
office?
have a copy of it if you'd like to see.
Okay, but I didn't know how that affected the Worcester County Liquor Board, Liquor Control Board, or if they haven't issued you a license. This was a question, these are
Yeah.
questions I've been taking in for 3 days from
Sure.
people. And as far as off premises, you're producing your product up at behind Pit Stop, correct? The space
Yep.
you have there, that's where you manufacture or you produce. I didn't believe that you can do that off premises at another site.
Manufacturer?
Serve it.
I'll show you a copy of the license.
That's fine. These are just
Yeah,
questions
good
that
question. So,
that are out in the public, and I'm trying to
Yeah,
that's why I
educate
brought
myself
it.
as I
Thank
go.
you. So to answer it, as Ms. Moore said, we're being extremely creative. And so under our Maryland winery license, we're allowed to do 32 special events a year that are 3 days in length. And Megan's shown you the license. So the local liquor board doesn't have any jurisdiction on what we are doing. So that is probably a surprise to a lot of people, but we wouldn't still be in business if we had been breaking any laws for the last year. So our track record of submitting these paperwork, having successful events that are to the T by the law. So again, we are being extremely hyper creative in how we are going about.
What about when, the Monday through Thursday, when it's community space, will people be allowed to bring alcohol onto the property?
Absolutely not. No, we're going to have signage posted.
I was just curious. I saw someone commented, "Oh, great late night after
Well, see,
hours
that's-
party."
No way.
Yeah,
So I
there
didn't
was,
see that.
Who will monitor that and run people off if that happens?
That's a great question. So I'm not sure who monitors that at the Berlin parks, but that's.
well, you're but you are the owner. The town of Berlin is the owner of their parks. Our police department monitors them. You're good. That's why I asked you. You realize if you purchasing it in your corporate name or whatever, you're responsible. You're going to be responsible for the trash. If people Monday through Thursday go over on nice days and use the picnic tables and put their hopefully their trash in the trash. This trash can's gotta be empty at least once a day.
Is this the trash cans on the left, like the round? I can't.
Those are tables
Oh,
on the point of trying those.
I mean, so who's gonna be there to empty the trash at least once a day, if not twice? And when it's empty, where do you have a dumpster? What are you doing with the trash that you empty out of the cans?
Yeah, so
I mean, trash has become a problem here downtown last year, actually, like, not as bad as the Ocean City Boardwalk, of course, but with so many people eating outside and everything, and let's say, you're gonna invest in this beautiful piece of property, you don't want trash all over the grass.
no, we sure don't. So I mean, that-
Typically, what we do for the town, when Pop's Kitchen opened up on Gay Street, they made a call and requested additional trash cans, and we actually received grant funding a couple of years ago to get extra trash cans just for that reason. So Pop's Kitchen, they called and they said, hey, we need some extra trash cans here, there's a lot of people. So that's what we did, and we would, with every new business that opens up, we always supply an extra trash can in that
So
facility.
they're gonna get a business license, like if they are a storefront business, they're gonna have a business license?
Oh, they already have a business license as well.
Okay.
And just to also clarify about the licensing, when I started working with Brett and Megan on this project several years ago, we made sure that we contacted the state. We talked to Kevin Addix and several people at state level to make sure that this was going to be, it would go through all the right channels and make sure that every single T was crossed and I's were dotted before this even happened over there at Johnny Derrickson's place.
Norton, I'm sorry, I think you had a question.
Yeah, no, without a doubt, it's beautiful. It looks really nice, it's gonna look really nice, it will look really nice in that area that's really run down right now. But really back to what my question was, let's say that on one of these nights, somebody's decided to have a birthday party over there and it gets out of control. Who's gonna be the person, or who's gonna monitor that to come over and say, you gotta keep it down? I mean, I don't think that would be the Berlin Police Department. Yes, you could say that, say the pavilion, that is owned by the town, the police department would react to that after, as a town official would call them into service. But you would be a privately owned property that you would be responsible for your people on there at that time. But I mean, I love this. It's nice. I'm just worried about excessive parties that could potentially happen. I'm not saying that they will. You know, I can see aerobics and everything being done out here. I can see that. I really can.
But it's a
What is the
neighborhood,
zone?
I mean, it's a neighborhood, single
Yeah, because
family
there's
house.
people's houses right across the street. What is it zoned? I don't even.
It's a
B1.
B1.
Town Center District, P1.
Big one.
So for security, right now in our tap house, we have multiple security cameras and they're motion censored. So if someone were to come in, we get a notification right to our phones. We would install security cameras there because we of course want it to be a place that is treasured and not trashed.
Yeah.
So we would have that.
Good logo.
Yes.
Well,
And then if there are people there, we live on Bay Street, we could first attempt would be to go there ourselves if needed and to move people out, but calling the police on them if they're outside of our business hours, it would be sun up to sundown is
or
what.
are you gonna
Wonder-
have a way, to secure the area so that no one will be able to go in there?
I was just going to address that.
Okay, please,
So,
please.
one of the things that David Quillen did in our design was to give us, fire safe, but gates. So, we would be able to, depending on what the fire marshal said, whether they are physically locked or at least closed with signage, sun up, sun down, we would have gates that clearly say, well, you're not allowed in. And obviously, if somebody's going to break the law, they could do that, but that would be our first point of security, would to have the gates,
And signage.
have regular hours posted, just like, sun up, sun down, and then depending on whether locks are necessary or not, that's something I think next week we'll, probably the planning commission get some recommendations on how that would be, what that would like to be done. But yeah, we would have gates that would say, close, and Megan and I live a quarter mile down the street, so, if we needed to have a physical sign that said open and or closed, we're up before the sun gets up, so we could add it to our
Well,
trip.
Norty can speak to this better than myself, but there's been numerous issues, and it's not with adults, taking bottles out of the trash out by the club and smashing them all over the road and in parking lots of some of the businesses. So security is that still going on, or has
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
it's still going on? Like I said, that's a concern, I think, for the board.
Yeah.
The security. Let me ask you this, the fencing that you are thinking about putting in, did you think, and I don't know if I even would, but did you think maybe to speak with our Chief Downey about height, and when cars come up, because that's through, as you're going down Jefferson, it's kind of hard to see when you stop to get out, about, the height of a fence and people being able to see to get out safely.
Yeah, great question. So Megan and I did not specifically. David reached out to a couple of contacts. I can't say specifically who he spoke with, but I remember through our email chains talking with David that the fence height, number one, making sure it was A, tall enough.
Right,
and
right,
then B,
oh, absolutely.
not too tall to impede that. One of the things that was really important to us was that the fence, whether you're just walking down the sidewalk, that you could be on the one side of the property and look across and still see Pop's Kitchen, or be on the other side and see Wood and Octopus, or whatever. So it's, I believe the fence height is,
It's 42 inches.
yeah, 42 inches. So if you're in a vehicle, David tried to get it so that way you wouldn't impede vision. And then we also
Well,
thought about
I like the, it's not so much decorative, but it just, I agree with David. I think something like that really looks really a lot better. Yes. Yeah. What kind of, go ahead, David.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
No, no.
I did, when we received the packet materials, Carolyn and I did show it to Chief Downing, and his only comment was about the height, and I said, I believe it's 42 inches.
Mm-hmm.
He said, well, we'd have to go out there. where on this drawing you have a point here.
Mhm.
He said, that's the only spot I really have a concern, when you get down to the stop sign.
Mhm.
That might have to back off some
Sure.
to have it clear to the ground, so when you're, you know, I don't know how many people legally stop there, right? A lot of them roll right through, but, so they can see where Gay and Jefferson are coming together, they can see clearly.
Like Broad Street in Washington, the couple, their picket fence came down at the corner.
Right.
Am I correct or
Yeah, right.
with that?
So, and it, you know, the town code is clear on that too, it says if it's an obstruction, and over time, that's what Carol and I have done, we usually take the chief out to the spot, and that's what he said on this, he said,
Oh,
we'll see.
good,
He
okay.
said, if they get their approvals and all, and everything's going, before you permit it, we'll be out there on the ground. So that we did address that. And while we're talking about Chief Downey, his other concern, as it always is downtown, is parking. So if you become, you know, exceedingly popular, and people are coming because they know where it is, and they've been there before on a Friday night or a Saturday night, that whole section now is busy between the Atlantic Hotel, the Globe, Pops, the Lost Pantry when it reopens. It could be one big block party, and that was his concern as far as parking, and you guys have all touched on it tonight, enforcement. You know, even after you say, okay, our event's over, you know, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Well, once you go home, what happens at midnight, right, or 1 a.m., when the other venues are still open or letting out? Those were the concerns he expressed to me. So, and he also stressed that he couldn't be. Of course, they respond to anything. They're wonderful, all of them, our police officers. But he said we're not looking to add another enforcement where we have to go by there every night and make sure there's no one utilizing the space when they're, quote, not open. He said this is a kind of a hybrid type of use, so that, you know, he expressed to
That's
me.
where I was getting at with my question about.
Yeah.
So I will say that we would love to hear if you have ideas and suggestions on that, because that's, with Megan and I, that's our biggest concern as well, because it's liability that we're in charge of. So we have come this far and tried to come up with this many procedures and ways to build it. So if you have ideas on that, we're more than open to changing or amending or adding that, because we live here with our kids. We don't want that to be a nuisance, and we want to have a good reputation. So
Well, see, that's just that you're a young couple, and people, it's very obvious that you have numerous friends from over the letters of support. And if you're able to do this, everybody here wants you to succeed. And we don't want you, you know, it's going to cost you funds to get going to.
I see
To fail
people on
because
weekends
of,
there. I see afternoons. I see people on bicycles who picked up their lunch any more than when the butcher shop has put out more tables and umbrellas to the people that aren't coming in cars. I think I'm personally, from my perch, sitting at the office on Broad Street and our home on Broad Street, I mean, it is constant traffic of families. It's absolutely wonderful to see in Berlin. And more foot traffic than I've ever seen when I came here in 65, 70, 80, 90s. There weren't a lot of people my age when we were young, were always in the car. There aren't many people riding. If I walk, people would offer me a ride, so I think it's a real opportunity. And I'm seeing it more as an afternoon, daytime, kids in town, let's go over there. And I don't have a problem of thinking about having, because I kind of think the kind of events that you all would have there would not be events that would be problematic. I see them more small. It lends itself to a certain venue. to
Well,
me.
exactly, I think we all agree on that.
Yeah, I
But
think we do.
unfortunately,
Well, this
there's
is
other
we're here
things
just
that
to
they,
give our.
we just all have to think about, so.
Yeah, as far as the way it looks, I think it's attractive.
I see people filling up every chair on a table along Main Street, and we had a couple of pretty days. And I was just shocked that all the people that sit and all the people seem like table and chairs have become like bistro dining from one end to the other, you know, and a place for an older couple, they want to go there and take their lunch and sit down. I guess where I'm perceiving it is in that genre more than a rock concert kind of, you know, get out there and have a party, maybe somebody playing a guitar or something like that. I mean, but I see them as a very intelligent young couple with a very creative idea that will be an asset to Berlin and that it makes it unusual. And they're the ones the buck stops with. I think we can give them our senior advice or things that we've seen, but I certainly don't find anything aesthetically, which in a way historic district is in Berlin, it's too offensive to my way of thinking. It's very creative.
Now, needless to say, the fact that it's going to stay a green space and not have a building put on it is huge for me. And I like the concept of what Habitat was going to do, but this is to me.
Well, there's a
too
couple
much.
that's putting their money up there. It's, I think we're giving all of our negative as well as
Well, I
positive, and they're the
know,
ones
I
that
think
come up
we'll
with,
give
and
it
then
a-
it's up to Dave to enlighten us, or the planning and zoning, if they feel something above us. I'm very encouraged.
Now, I really think we're being negative. I've had several people ask me, I said, I want to be in listening mood. You know, I mean, if they're going to do this, we certainly want them to be successful.
And I think they're intelligent enough to figure it out.
I guess the only other,
Well, and they have to go through zoning, and they have to go through.
Yeah, they have a lot of
Right.
hoops to go through. I'm just liked at the first stage, what is historic district? And number one, I think of it trying to keep the flavor of what Berlin, which is so unusual. When you see people taking pictures and standing in the middle of the street on a Saturday, you know that the only shops they see are in shopping centers, strip malls, or that kind of thing. They don't even clue that, oh, this is a town. This is actually what towns are. And I think the kind of people that are drawn here.
Well,
are
I
not
think
those-
that it's a good thing that they came here and we asked these questions.
Oh,
because
absolutely. And
all the
enlighten
people that
me.
are sitting at home are wondering the same things that we are. And a lot of the things that I saw on social media were drinking involved. You know, it seemed to me that people were under the assumption that it was going to be a place where you could come and
Party, party.
yeah,
Well,
and
somebody's-
you know, and so
They open
I
up,
think
there
that's
won't
a,
be.
it's, you know, this is a public forum and we will just, we will only vote on how it looks. But I, for one, am glad that you gave us the whole plan, the whole background of.
Yeah.
And hopefully our questions, you know, help you too. I'm being
Definitely.
that.
There's some good ones,
Absolutely.
and they've been things that Meg and I have already been, well, some of them trying to think of this through. I mean, how do we control people being there when we're not there? That's the ultimate question. It's
Humans aren't behaving as well as they used to. Of course, I'm older, so I yeah,
So
a different attitude, but I think
let's
you are.
get back into like, and how it's going to look. We-
sure.
Right.
So we're going to have a wooden fence,
Wooden fence,
and the pergola is all, so everything's going to be wooden,
everything's wood.
everything around it, so and then we're going to have some foliage from what I see going on top. Am I seeing, is part of this fence going to be painted?
That's the idea, is to try to add a little bit of paint to it.
Okay.
I don't believe that we have a definite color scheme exactly. I don't know if that was
We don't
needed.
really,
We don't-
we
we
don't
don't
determine
do
the
it.
color.
We
And I just, I
Okay.
saw that there and I was just curious. I saw
Yeah.
the red, white and blue and.
He just put that in there.
Yeah, well, it sounds like just how David would do it.
You're right.
But for the patriotic look,
Right.
it always hits people right there.
Yeah. We are planning on having minimal paint, but some paint to just where it looks older, but it also is kind of new. You know, I think having a painted fence it lends itself to an opportunity to it not looking run down as the wood ages. So we're kind of trying to be really in between that, where where it fits in with the rest of Berlin. You know, older buildings and new businesses.
The parking for
What would be the
four
capacity
cars.
at one time of people? What would be the capacity of people that could be in that area?
That's a great question, and I also think that would be kind of determined on whatever the code restrictions may or may not be. So
Maybe it'll all
without
be gone
that,
by then, let's hope.
let's
That
hope,
would
let's,
just-
right.
The fire marshal's gonna.
He'll
See,
say
it
that.
makes determines by the square
Yeah.
footage and that,
Just
particularly
like
the gates, okay,
The gates and the path of egress or ingress.
right.
should there be a fire or an accident, people have to get out of the space
Right.
instead of being inside the fence.
Right.
So,
It's kind of no different than what J&M Meat Market Grill came in front of this board and talked about their outdoor deck with
Right.
tables and,
yeah, because
Kind of the same thing.
their Class B license for beer and wine requires it to be enclosed at the meat market. So that occupancy is determined by the square footage of that enclosed area. So when they get that far for permitting, then they would have to have that approval from my office from the fire marshal.
Gotcha.
And the fire marshal sends me a report based on what I
guess
assume
feel-
David Quillen would send to him.
Yeah,
So,
he knows. I guess I'm thinking because the space isn't so huge, you know, I mean, in Berlin Park, I mean, you just get a lot of people down there and carrying on. This to me lends itself to a more, I'm going to say the word genteel or more behaving people, that's probably an old-fashioned word, but people that would be drawn to or come there, or bring a grandparent who needs to sit down, who's tired, who doesn't need all that, or they have something they want to eat. That's where I'm perceiving this, and I think you all are smart enough to realize, and business sense, and that what needs to be done, and I'm just, I don't have a problem with it.
Dave, some of these drawings are showing sidewalks. The town won't be putting sidewalks in there, will they?
There's
No.
already-
There's one sidewalk
On the one
on
side?
the same side that
So Jeff.
Jefferson side.
Street.
Right.
Now, I will say, I did have a question, which is probably for next week, but the sidewalk isn't necessarily in the best of shape in a couple of spots, so I didn't know if, when we purchased this, if we owned the sidewalk and/or if it was our responsibility to get that replaced, because there is a couple of spots. where
sidewalk is the property owner's responsibility in that, the condition of it.
Okay. So that's something we
Yeah,
would
we
get
would
fixed,
replace
'cause-
it then, so there's no tripping.
yeah, because there's one spot in particular where it needs, to be fixed. But we wouldn't be putting a sidewalk on the other side, just in the existing side.
There's still this original stepping stones to the front, the house that was there. I
Yeah.
know that.
That's part of what needs to be a
Yes, I
little
can picture it.
helped, yeah.
Dave, I guess my only other question would be, I know you got a bunch of emails, a bunch of stuff's come in, or even Ivy. Is there any alarming emails of a neighbor?
Well, when we post the packets and we put them on the town website, we will take comment, whether by phone, by email, or social media. So, since Monday, and I can cut them off at noon the day of. Today at noon, I stopped reading them.
How many?
I had 89, which is quite a few really, if you want to call it 2 days.
It's a lot.
And 2 were in opposition. 2. So 87 were in support. And I read every one of them.
Are they of immediate neighbors?
Berlin residents? or-
Well, not this Berlin.
One was right across the street on Jefferson, a residential spot.
Was it any complaints of the construction or just the basic? So that would not have,
It was,
wouldn't need to be read to us because not into what they're doing there,
No,
or
and-
what it
and-
looks like.
overwhelming support was the idea of it not just being the photo we got here, this empty lot with cars parked on it sometimes,
Yeah,
but a green space that was usable. But that's the difference, and we've been kind of touching on it tonight. People are looking at this, and Mr. Hines even referred to it as a privately funded public green space. It's not public. When you use the word public, it means the town has some interest in it, or not that we don't have interest in it, but we don't have any ownership. We don't have any responsibility for enforcement any more than we do any of the other business locations in town. The only responsibility we would have for enforcement is if one of the places is getting robbed and they call 911. So that's the difference here, and the liability is a concern, as we've talked about, trash, porta-johns, safety on the street. So those are the questions that people were worried about parking, more people on the street, the ones that were negative. But no residents were on that street, Jefferson or Gay, had any response to me that was, the one resident who lived on Jefferson, he said that he knows from time to time it might be a disruption, but he was still supporting it. He wanted that green space there. He thought it was a good use for that parcel. So, and I do know the gentleman, so I thought that was insightful of him to say. I know it'll be a little harder on me maybe, but I still think it's a good idea. And then some of the other things that we had expressed was, like I said, the parking, the area being busy anyway with the other venues we have on right there in that, just on Jefferson, the hotel, the Lost Pantry there, which used to be the coffee shop. That's, from my understanding, going to reopen. Pop's Kitchen.
Pop's Kitchen has their own parking lot in the back.
Yeah, but that could be an issue too. People don't realize that it's private property, just like the Atlantic Hotel lot is, for the hotel customers. So, that's, I'm just saying, it's very limited.
Well, I'm being naive, I'm just not, if it's sunset, whatever. I'm still picturing more foot traffic people, or all the people that come into Berlin and park in the Berlin post office parking lot, or park all around, where we are. I'm not thinking of it as a evening venue where people, when you all have this New Year's Eve, those kinds of things in Berlin, Halloween, all the things we have. People find a place to park, and there's 10 times more, I think, than you all are going to have.
The town needs to address parking,
Well,
I
I
think,
think
anyway.
we've tried.
I tried that 30 years ago.
One of the things I like to think about with this is people have been parking there, I guess the word would be illegally now for a while, because it's just, it's private. So we're actually adding 4 parking spaces that the town didn't previously had. So if we could add more, that would be great, but that's where we are.
That was my question. Why are you putting those 4 parking spaces when you could use that space for picnic tables or something? Is there a need to
Mostly
have?
so you all would approve it.
We're being 100% honest.
People,
It was
David recommended that we put 4 parking spaces. That's the biggest, widest part of the lot. It makes sense for us to have it as more green space, but David said that.
Well, wouldn't you need a place for the truck?
For your road or
Yeah.
something, but you wouldn't need 4 spaces.
No, we could have done 2 spaces. We could have put them all on the one side, kind of parallel park. There's a lot of ways that we try to design this, but we tried to have it kind of more of like an alleyway. So,
And I'll
Go ahead, because I just thought,
I'll kinda-
if they didn't have 4 spaces, look at all the more tables and kids and, go ahead.
I think a lot of things that we've been discussing tonight, all good topics. The public's interested, obviously, in knowing that from the response I had. I think 87 in the positive and 2 in the negative for the proposal. But that's a use argument. And
Well,
those-
yeah.
The uses of the parcel in the B1, that's site plan approval, that's the purview of the planning commission. And I'm grateful for all your input, and it'll get carried to the planning commission when they go for site plan approval, as will the public's
So let's do it.
input and comment. But that's the kind of thing the planning commission will ask. Can't you get more parking on there? Or, why did you do 4 spots? The fencing and the scheduling of events and the type of things we've talked about tonight. Who's responsible for the trash? Who's responsible for the enforcement? I think this is like a precursor to that meeting. It's a warm-up for you guys. Because I know the planning commission, they ask a lot of good questions. They're all good business people, different walks. And I think you have to keep that in mind. If you like this design, or you have other things you'd like them to provide, let them know. I had a couple questions, and like I did with the meat market.
Yeah,
The lighting, I see you have, like probably Edison type lighting going along the pergola. When is that lit? Because that does affect the residential people quite a bit, So that would be a question. I had written down a bunch of them too. The fire marshal, we covered that kind of. The liability on the property. The chief's concerns as far as the fence and, as far as busyness, proximity to the other venues, trash pickup, and the porta john. So those are all items, looking through your stuff that
Do you have to
we
have
pretty
a
much
porta
discussed.
potty?
So,
You all have to have one?
No, and
Oh,
as Dave had
okay.
said that we aren't even allowed to only during construction, or I guess if it's
Only
like a
during
town-sponsored
construction,
event or something.
Yeah.
But
so
we'd have to look at that too,
Sure.
see.
on the part here where you've got trash, okay? So is that going to be like a small dumpster where you empty in the cans that are set around the parcel?
my intent was that we would have the trash can that's in that privacy fence area be a larger trash can that we could empty the smaller trash cans into, and then that would be picked up, by trash service.
Yeah, that's my question,
Yeah,
yes, okay.
That's the
okay,
plan, is so
okay.
how the trash should be handled. And obviously, if it, was a lot, I mean, we have enough space in there to put 2 trash cans, or, I don't know the exact dimensions of the trash cans, but, we were trying to be very proactive with that cube, so that way it could be a multi-use space for our waste of many types.
Okay, so, because we sometimes have issues with
I like the tree. I like the tree.
Yeah.
That would be
Someone
great.
actually
Yeah.
offered to donate the tree already, as well as lawn care services and power washing, several services.
Yeah, and we're planning on, when we have the electricity installed, planning on having the lighting be on a timer. That's in like a lockbox, so the lighting won't be on past whatever time we agree on. But again, it's not a late night thing, so.
The one thing the lights are
Dave,
good
did you
for
hear
are
what
your
he said?
cameras, so
Yeah.
you can see.
Well, they have
Maybe
night
they'll
vision.
just dim. Oh, they have night.
We have infrared ones now that
Good.
makes it seem
So you
like
can see
daylight.
everything.
Yeah, and if there ever is an incident, the reason that we want to put security cameras, number one, we want to get recommendations on the angles. I don't know if this would be this meeting or next, but, because we don't want to impede on anybody's privacy, of course, because cameras are a touchy subject now, so we want to make sure that we're sensitive to whatever images we are capturing, but then that way, if there ever is an issue, there'll be video evidence of our enforcement, and then also video evidence of the repeat offenders, because,
There's several other businesses that have video cameras, and we can talk later, and I'll connect you with them also. But one of the things that I wanted to bring up about, everyone's talking about parking, and I think that we're so always focused on cars and parking, and showing the support for this project locally. We're all locals here, and I mean, if you're out at night, we're all walking around, and we're all looking for something to do while we're walking or we're biking. So we were talking about bike racks also, and that's imperative. We went to Artisans Green last week, and there were more bikes there than there were cars, because the local community supports local businesses. So I think that that's really important that get mentioned.
And that's the only thing that's not shown on the schematic, because we didn't think of it in time to be published, but it would go really easily next to the trash cans where we could put bike racks there.
Yeah, we
Or people
need
could
more
do
bike
that
racks in
sometimes.
town anyway.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, what people think that the back parking lot behind where the Sterling Tavern is publicly owned, and it's not. That entire lot is owned by 5 different people back there. So I mean, as much as I could write grants all day long to put bike racks everywhere, but we need to have the property owners allow us to put the bike racks there.
Well, and I think it's been before you came, Ivy.
Yeah.
The several that we do have,
Mhm.
we approved right away, and
yeah.
they were made, and it was.
Yeah, I was here
Here's
for
the one,
that.
I think the one that's in the museum, at the museum was actually the one at J&J.
Yeah, I was here when that whole thing
Yeah.
happened, and then we put the bike racks over there by the Welcome Center, which were always used when Zena Wellness was here. I mean, sometimes they're used, but more so people like to park their bikes by the hotel.
Yeah. What's your timeline? When are you thinking of starting?
So, good question. So our timeline right now is, number one, we wanted to make sure that what we are presenting is in track, that the town would be accepting of it and figuring out what the town's timeline will allow us to do.
Mhm.
It's really determined on the town. We were supposed to close on May 3rd with Habitat, who owns the property now, but we filed an extension to close until the end of May, so that way we could go through these meetings, which is written in our contract, to make sure that everything's approved. And so Megan and I are very green to this meeting and the next one, which is going to be a lot more, I believe, technical questions that, well, all of these are technical, but, so I think some of the answers to next week's will help determine what that timeline is. If I were to have, what I'm telling myself is July 4th.
Oh,
I want to
for the
be,
summer, good.
yeah, I mean, we're just building a fence and picnic tables and a pergola, so this is all stuff we could
He's a
get.
construction teacher.
Yeah.
But,
Are you gonna try to, not put sod in, Mary, but really try to reseed the grass or make it look a little,
we're gonna work on that. You know,
Yeah.
we don't know timing. I'm not a grass expert, so I don't know if we put it on there, how long it needs to be without being walked on.
You know what's big
but-
right now in the grass industry, and that was our first business, the sod farms, is AstroTurf in people's homes. It's just taking off, they don't want to mow, and they've got it to look now. And of course, the problem with a nice lawn, you have people walking on it, it ends up to be dirt in no time. When you get that kind
Yeah.
of foot traffic on a lawn, unless you've got nothing better than crabgrass. If you had a stand of perfectly level crabgrass, that's fine for trapping on or ball games or everything, but a cultivated lawn would be a waste of, in my opinion, waste of money, but I don't know, it doesn't look like a lot, but that's a big deal right now, is in the industry, in the landscape industry, is AstroTurf.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, we're open to ideas. We would obviously prefer it if it was not plastic, you
Yeah.
know, but
Well, of course, I know.
Definitely pervious.
Yeah.
Some kind of pervious pavement,
Yeah.
100%.
Maybe, I don't know what they're going with
yeah,
that.
I think unfortunately, it keeps getting driven over. So until we put that fence up, the foot traffic is going to be a little bit lighter
Maybe
than
pretty
the
stones,
tire
nice
traffic.
round river bottom stones or something where you would.
Yeah, for the parking
Yeah.
spaces for next week, one of the plans is to not put concrete necessarily, but keep
Yeah.
it, stones, so
Yeah, stones,
gravel
like,
and things,
yeah.
so.
Pea gravel, river
Yeah.
stones.
But to address the grass and
the town's been told by Habitat and other business owners that have used it, that, it would be cut and landscaped and so
Yeah.
on, and it wasn't.
Let me touch on one thing.
Go ahead, go
Dave,
ahead.
he did touch on that when you asked about the lights, and how late staying on, he said it would be on a timer.
Right.
I didn't know if you heard him say that or
Yeah.
not. And the other thing, I guess, before we proceed with a motion or how we're doing, Arnold, how did he say that this point needed to be? Could
He
it
said-
possibly have to come back more
Come back more towards Main Street.
or lower?
Well,
Or
he
lower,
said
or-
he didn't think 42 inches would be a problem
Okay,
if it was back a little further from the stop sign.
okay.
He said, and the best thing we could do, he goes, we'll go out there and we'll sit in the vehicle, and put our feet on the ground and,
There's two things to how I would make a motion that I see that are possibly eliminated. The eliminated is going to be the portalet, which will be gone, porta-john. And then the question on the point, how far out that would go. So, if we entertain a motion or something, that's going to be contingent on that.
And I
would make
think
it-
I think we can certainly trust Dave and the chief's judgment, because they're gonna want it right, and if they're gonna put this fencing in, and it's taken care of right before you're ready to go, then there you go.
Yeah, and we can always, it's from our point of interest of bumping that fence back 10 feet or 5 feet or whatever.
I don't think he's talking 10 feet or anything, is he?
I don't think so,
Yeah.
but
And you could do it like what the Nellens did with their house, where it
Yeah,
graduated
that's
down.
what I was thinking, we're graduating
Yeah.
it
There's
down.
lots of
Yeah,
options.
and it's just a safety, well, I think Mary's or whoever said nobody stop signs in town anymore, and it's not just there, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Before we do a motion and everything, I am very remiss in introducing Councilman Durr. Did you have any questions? We welcome you to our meeting.
I think you covered a lot of information, great information, and I just want a nice addition to the town, and I'm just here to observe and hear what's being said.
Can you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Jay Durr. I'm on the Berlin Town Council.
Oh, okay, nice to meet you, Jay. Newly elected, nice for you to come.
Thank you, and you are welcome. All our council members and mayor are welcome to any of our meetings, and we're very glad to have you. So, Robert, you've not said one word. Did you have anything you
I learned a lot
want to talk
tonight by
about?
listening.
I
That's
said
my
we
next
never
lesson.
give you an opportunity to speak.
The old adage goes, the people who speak just reiterate what they know, the people who listen are the ones that are learning.
That's right.
You just learn from people who speak.
And being the nature of the Historic Commission is to improve the nature of this town. I've been here for 20 years now, and looking at that morbid-looking vacant lot, this is 1,000% improvement.
Should have seen the whole
And all these little details that everybody's been talking about, a lot of them is really not in the realm of our commission. It's up to what Dave was talking about with the planning board or whatever. I would love to see this. At one point, we were talking about the grass wearing down with traffic. I noticed one thing last summer, when our grandkids came up from Virginia, we took them out to the Assateague. We go there all the time. And we had lunch at the picnic table before we went for a bicycle ride. And I noticed something really interesting. When you're sitting on a lawn and you're wearing sandals or sneakers, and you're not wearing socks, as you're eating on a table, your feet are getting eaten alive by the mosquitoes. At Assateague, they did something really unique. Under each picnic table, they have a concrete slab. We did not get one mosquito because they stay on the lawn. And I thought maybe if you wanted to do something to consider like not having the grass wear away from constant traffic, you might want to consider something like footpaths or maybe slabs underneath the tables. It's just a thought. The only other thought I had was, are you going to have like a professional maintenance service to take care of all the foliage and the grass? Is that because if this is going to be like private property, but it's going to be community oriented, and if you're not there, is there going to be like a regular lawn service that comes in, a maintenance service that comes in to take care of it? Because it's like you don't want the property to become morbid again during the use of it, that's my concern, how to maintain it.
Yeah, good question. We'll look into the options for under the tables. That's, integrated pest management is a, really interesting thing that we could look into. So for the maintenance of the property, we are gonna, whatever we have to do to make sure it's maintained appropriately, that's what we're gonna do. So if it gets out of hand where me and my guys can't take care of it, we've also had lots of people reach out who said that they're willing to. So we don't really have any money, so we're gonna try to do it under our own labor to start. But then if for whatever reason that we're planning on being there frequently, of course. So if it gets out of hand or something, then we'll hire professional service because, this is our little.
Well, the goats can help too.
Yeah. It will. I will say
For
this.
real, no, the goats can
My
help.
wife and I, we've been traveling to Italy every year to visit our relatives, my relatives. We usually stay for a month. And there's this one valley up in the Alps. It's a high altitude valley. And we thought it was public land. It's got beautiful with moss, and nice wooden bridge over a little stream and all. And it's really pretty, but we didn't know it was privately owned. And I had to translate. There's a sign on a tree that says this is privately owned, but it's for public use, just keep it clean.
Cool.
You respect this property and keep it clean. So maybe, because there's a nice little corner there, and you want to make it like Mary would say, nice and quaint, you know, a lot of the foot traffic coming through. Maybe you want to have like a nice, maybe soft-spoken sign to represent what this park is all about. And maybe people, by reading that, will respect it more.
That's a great.
Yeah, you're gonna have, I hope you would have something with your logo with
Yeah.
comments. I mean,
I
how
actually-
lovely would
There is
that
something
be?
Yeah,
There is something.
we're on the same page. So actually in the center of the top left, I think it's, I don't have my glasses on, but what's that photo right there?
This, like, yeah, number 2,
A90, number 2, on the top left of the colored photos. Oh, you were just on it.
What one more? No, on, over here. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, just go back down, I'm sorry. The
That's
picture
the
that you're...
logo.
That's the logo.
Yeah, but...
Go back down.
All the way to the bottom.
So you can stop right there, actually, that's fine there too,
Yeah,
A10's
no, that's what I was
fine.
saying.
So right in the center of that green space, to the right, just outside of where the porta potty is pictured, so that pergola standing by itself is exactly what you just said. It's
Okay.
gonna be a community board that we are gonna have not only the things you just mentioned about like what the space is, what it represents, and how our kind of, what the rules are, I guess, but then also like a calendar of events. So I thought of it as like when you go to the beach, every time you go to the beach, there's a sign that says, here are the rules for being on the
Right.
beach. And it's
Very
kind of,
uninviting.
it's self-regulating
Hopefully
to
more
start.
aesthetic.
And that's, yeah, we're gonna try to make it double-sided, so front and back, and then have information like what you just said, so when people enter and exit, and potentially, I think we'll have to get like everything approved from you also. I'm not sure where the other signage will need to get approved, if it's on the front door or not, you know.
Well,
those-
I think the best thing, I mean, this evening, in my mind, it would be, let's just, we're going to approve your 42-inch fencing, right, everyone?
Okay.
And the pergola, and the lighting that you have shown, and the area where you want to have your trash can. Everybody's okay with that, right? Yeah. Is everyone okay with this?
And that's a tall, just to be clear, that's a, Ms. Rose, that's a taller fence or wrapped around a trash can.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
More like a 6-foot
I
fence.
think that's a 6-foot fence.
Those kind of things, if they're out of sight, they're better.
Yeah,
Much better out of sight.
definitely.
6.
Okay. And so, who wants to make the motion to approve?
I said I did the last one.
Carol. Carol, I
Yes,
think-
David, I'm
I think-
sorry.
I think off Facebook, I think she's got a
There's
comment.
a comment that he would very much like to be read. This is from Mr. Jeff Oxer, who owns Jeff Oxer Designs, which is literally right next
Right next
door.
Yeah.
He wants to make sure that you know that he is 100% in support of this. He said that you could use his building for cameras. He, not only does Jeff have his studio there, but he also lives there as well. And he's 100% in support of this. And we wanted-
I knew he was,
Yeah.
I saw several of his comments. Yes, that's very nice, thank you, Ivy.
Sure.
You don't really want us to sit here and read all those.
No,
I think you were aware before you came that you had huge support for the project. Okay.
It's not required to have facilities at a park like this, or can they use the town facilities next to the,
Well, it's not allowed. See,
downstairs?
you cannot have a porta potty on private property
I
unless it's construction.
I understand that.
Yeah,
but
so if
Let's
people
say
need to
somebody
get, they're
needs
gonna have
to
to
use the
use the,
facilities, where would they go? Would they go downstairs?
right down here,
Okay.
right?
Public
Yeah.
restrooms, yeah.
Right. So that's not really an issue.
No,
And we were just trying to add the space for the porta potty because we weren't really sure what there was gonna be, and we knew we needed to hide our trash can, and so if there was something that would come up, we're not planning on having a porta potty there.
And the health department is not gonna, have you talked, I don't even know, I guess if you're gonna have your product, do you need anything with
We're already covered.
water or how, you know, so you're all okay with all
Yeah.
that? So you don't need a space for anything special for that, right?
Yeah, no, because everything would be disposable, or
Okay.
recyclable, you know, so.
That's easy.
Yeah,
That's easy.
that's what we're doing.
And the
Okay.
restaurants would be covered by their takeout.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody brought takeout, that's their own.
Okay, very good. All right, you wanna?
I'm fine.
No, I'm
I don't
just,
have a question, but I'll make a motion.
I was gonna say, if you
Yeah,
would
I'm gonna
please.
make a motion,
Okay,
5-5-21-9. I'll make a motion to approve the fencing that could possibly have a stipulation of shortening or dipping by our chief of police. We'll make that ruling. Dave will let me know what he finds out. I make a motion to approve the pergola with the foliage up the side of it and everything, and the lights that you're asking for. I did see a sign here. Is that on this, what they were asking for, we were outside the door, or
I
outside
haven't
the gate?
submitted any sign permits.
No sign permits?
that's not
Okay.
yet, no,
Okay.
I think that was.
So the lights, pergola, and the fence is what I make a motion to do approved.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor? Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you for
you.
giving us
Sorry,
so
that's
much
pretty cool.
time.
Awesome. Thank you for your time and understanding, and it's a very new kind of concept, so I appreciate you allowing us to.
I hope
answer
it
this.
works out the way you have it envisioned.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really do, because your visions sound great, and I can see it happening like that, as long as we don't have these bad eggs in the nest,
I agree.
that just won't do it, but I'm excited for you.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
I hope to see you all there one
That's
day.
fine.
Hopefully our questions and so forth were helpful to you
Yeah.
for your next meeting.
Yep. Absolutely.
Thank you very
Thank you all.
much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Is that our last rundown space in town?
You can keep that.
Right, that's.
Because
Now I make, I'm
It's not his house.
I'm
Oh, right,
she
okay.
said she didn't know that there wasn't.
Now, I can wear
There was.
Do we have to wear them the
She
whole
said it
time?
would be for
I can wear mine.
She said, but normally they talk to me. So she was surprised, so
We were
I'm
told.
gonna share that with her.
Last I talked to her office, we
But hey, we
did
didn't adjourn the meeting.
Oh, that's why you're so quiet. You're quiet.
Oh,
That's why you're so quiet. That's why you're so quiet.
So you have a journal.
I get you. This is telling you why.
Yeah, thank you.
I will pass this along if that's okay by you.
Um,
I will send it to her.
I'm sorry, but we haven't adjourned yet. So really quickly, Dave, do you have any comments for the commissioners?
I'm sorry.
You or Carolyn have any comments for us, or are we good to go?
No, I think I talked enough during the meeting.
Okay, board members have any items? Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Let's go adjourn.
Okay. Thank you, folks.
I hear, are there any new places coming? What's going where the oil and vinegar place was?
It's gonna be, yeah, it's not gonna be there.
It's not gonna be there.
No, there's too much, the building's falling apart.
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
It's too far gone to save.
Oh, what
Is the
a,
Patrick guy still in it?
I'm excited that they're gonna have a bigger, nice place right there on Main Street though,
I am
for
too.
the oil and vinegar.
Yeah.
Have you been approached from the tavern?
From the
The tavern, where the